Hello, everyone. Just going to post this where I need to post it, and then I'll start saying hello to everyone. Hi, Chad. Hi, GI Spidey. Elk Hills and Brandon Knight. Nice to see you. Bradley Good. Hey. All right. Hang on. I'm just grabbing the URL here. Hi, Jeremy. Feeling, well, I'm surviving. All right. One quick moment. Hi, Dominic. Yes, Brandon, you made it. All right. Oh, Green Yeti, sorry you can't stay, but it's nice to see you. Be the Defiant and build the Defiant. I'm trying to do both. All right, that should do it. All right, we got 27 people in here already. That's cool. Masked Vigilante. Great to see you too. Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, that's true. And yeah, I'll talk a little bit about myself in this video, a little bit. I don't want to overdo it, but you guys deserve an update. But I'll give everybody a minute to show up. I have less, planned for this live stream than the previous ones. I always tried to have, something, an idea of what I wanted to say, and I have a little bit that I want to say, but this will be a little bit more open-ended. We'll see what you want to say, and we'll talk about that. Hi, Dave. Thanks, Masked Vigilante. I'm trying to. Hi, how are you, Gonzalez? How you doing? Yeah, Mr. Gonzalez, I did get your emails. I haven't been able to reply yet, and I'm sorry about that. I'll try to as soon as I can. Guys, it's been tough to keep up with everything, and so I'm sorry if I haven't gotten with some of you guys. Hi, Matt. Okay. All right. Since I'm doing this on my phone, things pop up, and I gotta get rid of them. Hey, Shane. The 1982, the flak. You got the flak today? Oh, that's nice. It's always nice to get one of those 1982 pieces. I'm a big fan of those. And the flak is, it doesn't have wheels. It just has the legs and everything. It's a little bit limited in what it can do, but it's got some really fantastic detail on it. And it's functional. And that was, functional was important back in 92 or 82. I believe you, Mr. Yeti. Archangel, hello. Oh, Brandon, yeah, please keep sending emails. It's fine. I'm sorry I'm not able to get to all of them as fast as I'd like to, but it's nice to hear from you. So please feel free to email anytime you feel like it. All right, and we're indoors this time because we learned our lesson from last time. We know that in about a half hour, 45 minutes from now, the cicadas outside will get very, very loud. So, yeah, PTSD and ADHD. Sorry you're dealing with that, but I hope that you're getting the help that you need with it. Green Yeti. Where do I get G.I. Joe? Well, from a lot of places. Sometimes I try to pick them up from trading and selling groups on Facebook. I do get things from eBay from time to time. A lot of times you guys send me stuff. So that's been a big help to me. Yeah, those bug sounds. So yeah, lesson learned from last time. We'll do better this time. Hey, Max Reveals Ghost Music. Hey, how you doing? Um, yeah, I mean, I suppose it could be worse. So I'll try to keep a good um, keep the best attitude I can. I got a Maggot and Worms yesterday and Sci-Fi. Oh, cool. The Maggot is actually a pretty sweet vehicle, and I have a feeling that that popularity on that thing will go up as more people get their hands on it. Yeah, the Tulsa backwards is a slut. That is something that everyone here has pointed out at some point or another. Hello, Joel. Yeah, I'm glad you could make it too. Hey, Joe fans. What did Lady J say to Heart Wrencher? I give up. What did Lady J say to Heart Wrencher? Recently started collecting Joes within the year 82 to 87, the years I had as a kid. I mean, that is, the most logical way to collect is to get what you are familiar with and get what you had as a kid. Well, cool. I hope you enjoy collecting. I hope you enjoy your collecting adventure. Comic Tropes is only sort of here. I won't tell anyone that you're live streaming or watching a live stream at work. I won't tell nobody. Diaper spelled backwards is repaid. Well, thank you, Mateo Surreal. I think we're all better off knowing that. So thank you for pointing that out. Hi, William. Do I have the Brawler? I do not have the Brawler. That's one that I've thought about, especially since it was mentioned on Leatherneck's file card, Leatherneck version 3. I thought, do I want to get the Brawler? I will get the Brawler eventually, but I haven't really actively looked for it yet. But it is a vehicle that is missing. I have not ticked off that box. Hi, Jeff. Yeah, let's say something about. You say you have it for me? Well, send me an email, and we'll talk about that. Thank you. Let's say something. Let's say something about Comic Tropes, since Comic Tropes is sort of here. Comic Tropes' channel is really taken off right now, and I think the channel really deserves it. He covers comic books. He covers kind of like all aspects of comic books. Hi, Matt. The potential audience for that is huge. And it's really nice to see that channel getting attention and getting some of the audience that it deserves. So congratulations to Comic Tropes. Very happy to see that happen. And that's really cool. Question, do you have anything special for reviewing? Will you do anything special for reviewing the animated movie? It's the whole thing's going to be special because I don't do movie reviews, so it's going to be totally different from what I usually do. I thought I might kind of do a little bit of a parody of some other movie reviewers just for fun, but my plan is to do like a short mini review of the Transformers movie to put the G.I. Joe movie in context. Hi, Dave. So I'll do I think the first part of it needs to look at the Transformers movie and then the G.I. Joe movie in that context. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about it. How can you send stuff now? I promise no more 90 stuff. Of course you guys don't have to send me anything. Matt, thank you for recently subscribing to the channel. If you want to, you're certainly welcome to, but please don't feel obligated to. I usually have stuff sent to my work address now because it's just the safest way to send things and make sure that I get them, make sure that they are secure and they aren't left on the porch by the postman and stolen by neighborhood kids. So if you want that address, just send me an email let's see, can I type a message in here? Yeah. I can try to anyway. Okay. Oh, almost gave you the wrong address. Okay, at that email address that is appearing on your screen right now. Okay. Gonzalo, thank you for the review about one of my childhood memories. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I'm glad that you liked it. Rambo and G.I. Joe just would have made so much sense, wouldn't it? Yeah, but no, please don't ever. Nobody feel like you have to send something. I don't want to take more than you guys would be willing to give. But if you are interested in sending something, just send me an email at that address, and I'll tell you how. I have, as far as stuff that's been sent to me this month, I have less stuff than last month. Had a huge amount of stuff last month. But the stuff that was sent to me so far this month is pretty amazing. So it's less stuff, but really cool stuff. So I'm looking forward to the end of the month when I can show you that. No Pepsi this time. Just water. I'm actually out of Pepsi. Review all the inserts, like the battle ribbons, command rings, micro figures. That sounds really, really cool. I need to get my hands on them, but I would love to do that. That would take some time because I would need that would take some time to collect all those. But if I could get those, I think that would be fun. I think that would be cool. Those inserts, I remember them just because, you know, I mean, it was a little bit late in the game for me, but I do remember them. And I particularly liked the battle ribbons. And, you know, the face paint, I think the face paint came along, if I remember right, really kind of just before we got out of G.I. Joe, if I'm remembering correctly. But we liked the face paint for some reason. Water is life, yes. Too unhinged to be a Joe. I agree with you. Okay. John J. Rambo is too unhinged to be a Joe. I agree. So he would have maybe not been an official Joe, but he easily could have existed in the same universe as G.I. Joe, and they could have crossed paths, maybe teamed up on a mission or something like that. But yeah, I don't think he would have passed the psychological examination to become an official Joe. I'm glad you liked the clean sweep review. I had a lot of fun with that too. I remember I was editing that review last year in Florida during JoeCon. I was just trying to do a little bit each night to get that done. And that was a Comic Tropes Chris Pierce collaboration. And that was a lot of fun. Hi, Pensive Ruin. Glad you made it. The Russians have fluoridated our water. Yes, they have interfered with our precious bodily fluids. Matt, thank you. I'm glad you liked the Headman review. It's always a little bit of a risk to, you know, have any kind of heavy subject matter in these reviews, but sometimes I think it's appropriate. Interview series, interview patrons or subscribers about their collections. Hey, I think that's not a bad idea. I don't have a lot of experience interviewing people, like this kind of interviewing, so I don't know if I would be a good interviewer, but I could try. Hey Chris, it's okay. It's okay. You gotta take care of your job, your real work. But I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad you were able to stop by. Um, hey JJ, the micro figures. Um, I'm trying to remember. I don't recall as a kid getting any of the micro figures. I don't think. I could be misremembering, but I don't think I got any of the micro figures. But one thing about that's nice about that is that if I collected the micro figures and did a review of them, they'd be new to me. So it'd be kind of like getting a neat new thing. Is work any better? Not a lot. So yeah, I might as well give you guys an update. Work is still as difficult as it has been. I'm doing my best, but it doesn't seem to be getting a whole lot better. But I'm trying to take care of myself. I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so I'm going to be getting the help that I need to take care of myself. So I'm hoping that will improve at least my condition, and I'll be able to keep coming to you guys and bringing you stuff and talking with you and enjoying your company. So that's really all I have to say about that. I don't want you guys to worry, and I certainly don't want the channel to become about me complaining about my private life. But it's a struggle right now, but we'll make it through. We will make it through. Um, yeah. Oh, what's a micro figure, Gaz? In some of the with the package with some of the carded figures, there were these little tiny minifigures, little statuine or figurine kind of things. Oh, Max Rebo, you are dropping some hints here. I am intrigued. Um, um, Johannes likes the Marvel GI Joe and Transformers crossovers. That's fine. There was the Transformers versus GI Joe miniseries that was written by Larry. I think it was, and I seem to remember that one being not too bad. But to be truthful, I haven't read a lot of like the more recent GI Joe and Transformers crossovers. Of course, I've read the issues of the regular GI Joe series that also featured Transformers. That was kind of weird, but yeah. Um, oh, you have a minifigure of Gung Ho on your desk. Hey, that's cool. Yeah, Pensive Ruin. That's kind of. I mean, one thing that I liked about GI Joe as a kid and reading the comic book is I actually liked that it wasn't set in the Marvel universe. It was its own thing. There was a GI Joe universe, and what that meant for me was that you weren't going to have an issue where the X-Men were going to swing in, or have a cameo by Spider-Man or something like that. To me, that would have just taken me out of the fantasy that they were building in the comic book. So I'm glad that they kind of kept those two things separate. Making Mask part of GI Joe. Yeah, and again, I haven't read a lot of that. I understand why they do it. It's just not my thing, and I know that will appeal to some fans, but it's just not my thing. I My concern, like in going forward, if they were to cross GI Joe over with other Hasbro properties like Transformers, that GI Joe would end up basically playing second fiddle to Transformers. And I Transformers are fine, and Transformers fans, they're great, and I'm glad that the thing that you like is kind of popular right now. You got You've had movies such as they were, Michael Bay movies, but hey, they made a lot of money. And you got another movie coming up with Bumblebee, and that's great. I'm glad you guys like that. But I just don't want GI Joe to be, second banana to Transformers. I want GI Joe to have its own thing and have its own day in the spotlight. Um, Yeah, the later years of the comic. I mean, there were some issues of the later years, and we're talking about like the Marvel run, not the current IDW run. Which again, I'm still trying to read. The Larry Hama IDW run on GI Joe has been highly recommended to me. I even got a few issues, but I haven't been able to just sit down and read them yet, which has been very frustrating. But the later years of the Marvel run, there were still some good issues in there and some good writing. There were some issues where it seemed to me kind of obvious that Larry was really straining to try to make this all fit together and make sense. And some issues work better than others, but there are. I know, but I mean, yeah, there were still some really excellent issues in that. Hey, ODC, that's me. And Comic Tropes has a question. I know you're a good artist. Well, I'm okay. Who was your favorite artist as a teen? As a teen, my favorite artist, and it was after the GI Joe era, so we're talking about the '90s. So I'd have been a late teen, but I always liked Jim Lee. I liked Jim Lee on X-Men because I mean he had that flashy style that was becoming popular in the 90s, but I felt like he had good fundamentals, and that appealed to me a lot. I've always wanted to see, in my fantasy world, uh, Larry Hama writing for Jim Lee in a GI Joe, even a single issue. That would be That's my dream. I would love to see that. Um, in the Image era, Jim Lee did what was that thing called? Death Blow or something like that. It was a kind of a military-ish kind of story. Yeah, I guess it was a series for a little while, and it was all right. But I mean, I just feel like he could do something with all the uniforms and technical stuff in GI Joe. I really feel like he could do something with that. What's the most entertaining bad movie ever? It's for me. It's still Birdemic, Shock and Terror. Um, there are worse movies. There are worse movies, but the problem with some of the worst ones um, was that they're not entertaining. Birdemic is at least I think it's entertaining, and I actually I enjoy the first half of the movie. Um, Larry Hama and Jim Lee did work together in Wolverine, and Mark Silvestri is here. Yeah, yeah. That's correct. That's right. Hey, maybe that's an in, right? So Larry calls up Jim and says, hey, let's do this GI Joe thing. Let's make that happen. Let's start a hashtag, Hama Lee or something like that. Um, but yeah, Birdemic, Shock and Terror. I even like. I actually prefer the first half of the movie when it's just a really, really bad romance story. Before all the stupid birds and special effects come in, I just find those characters so hilariously lame that I just love watching it. Um, The comic series taught you a lot about reality at a relatively young age. To yeah, that may be true. And Larry has said that he kind of assumed that the kids who were spending money on the comic books maybe a little older, maybe a little bit more mature, and so he's kind of trying to write to them. But yeah, there was some real stuff in the comic books. Um, What's especially remiss that G.I. Joe could have used but never had or played up? Um, that one I'll have to think about. I don't have an answer on the top of my head about that one. And I'm sorry if I'm missing your comments. Um, let's see. G.I. Joe crossover with Sergeant Rock. Yeah, Sergeant Rock. I used to get that comic. I guess most of them were probably reprints by then, but like GI Combat and Sergeant Rock. Whenever I didn't have, whenever there wasn't a GI Joe comic book on the rack that I didn't already have. So yeah, I read quite a few of those. I always enjoyed those. They were gritty, and they tried to be made a little bit more realistic than GI Joe, and no, no shape changers or anything like that in Sergeant Rock. Um, the Sergeant Rock toys not that great. I kind of remember the Sergeant Rock toys, and I think you're right about that. But I don't remember enough of them. Um, Live the Strato Viper life with hypoxia surgery. Um, well, that's an interesting dream, and I hope someday you can achieve that. Did I ever blow up toys or burn them? I didn't. We played pretty roughly with them, but we didn't. We didn't usually intentionally destroy them because I mean we like to do lots of scenarios and we like to have lots of figures and vehicles. And if we destroyed them, then we wouldn't be able to play with them anymore. And plus, I mean, our parents were working class and they weren't going to go out and buy another one if we broke it. If we broke a toy, we're out of luck. They're not going to buy a new one. Um, Greatest series of cartoons and toys ever. Well, I think so. Um, any recommendation for getting a background for your Joes? I'm not sure, like a backdrop kind of thing, or yeah, thumbs and O-rings broke. Yeah, and now we figured out pretty early on how to take that back screw out. And down at our local dollar store, we could get a set of screwdrivers, and there was one that would fit that. So we were taking those screws out, but of course we didn't know how to. We didn't have a source on O-rings. We didn't know like they were just like plumbing O-rings. So we just take a rubber band and like loop it around that hook a few times, and it was never quite as good as new, but at least the figures would stay together. Yeah, Michael. Yeah, we usually got the small stuff, with our allowance, but we'd occasionally get big stuff for birthdays or Christmas or something like that. And I mentioned before our friend Sam. Sam is a very important character, very important person in our GI Joe experience because he lived, just down the street, a few houses down, and he was really into GI Joe too. Hi, Delvis. He was really into GI Joe too, and he lived with his grandparents. I never found out exactly what happened to his parents, but he lived with his grandparents, and they were very much working class like the rest of us. But man, they spoiled that kid. I mean, they got him the big stuff all the time. I mean, we'd show up at his house, and he's got the USS flag. We'd show up at his house one day, and he'd have a terror drone. So he got big stuff on a more regular basis than we did, but we just put all of our stuff together. We just play with all the stuff together as if it belonged to all of us. Green Yeti, I knew that wasn't you typing that, so I wasn't gonna say anything. So sometimes it's hard for me to remember exactly what belonged to us and what belonged to Sam because our G.I. Joe toys were all together all the time anyway. Yeah, the Lantern Corps figures, we got those too. We sometimes use them as just kind of extra characters, but when we started customizing, we figured out that some of the parts on the core figures could fit with G.I. Joe. Not all of them. But we start using those parts for customizing at some point. I know, Green Yeti, I know it wasn't you. I figured that out pretty quick. Albert, yeah, I mean, you have to be careful who you share with. But Sam and me and my brother, we just everything belonged to all of us. It was like it was a GI Joe commune, right? It was a GI Joe collective, and it was a great way to play because between the three of us, we had almost everything up through '86, and a lot of the stuff '87 and a little bit from '88. Repaint the E Honda Street Fighter GI Joe figure to be horror show from October Guard. It's an intriguing idea. I think you should try. Ever review custom Joes that my brother and I made? I don't have any like that are still intact. I would love to do that. I wish I could find some of the drawings and stuff because we made our own file cards, we made our own comic books, all with our own characters. And if I could find any of that stuff, I would get it in front of the camera. The only thing that I've been able to find is that toolbox that I showed you guys, and that seems to be all that's left. I can't find any of the other stuff. And we did so much. The long-awaited O-ring returns. What's going to happen to the imitations? I don't know. I wonder if we will get O-ring figures again. I'm wondering if just the materials. I wonder if they're actually more expensive to produce than modern non-O-ring figures. I don't know, but I'm curious about that. What would be the cost of producing an O-ring figure versus a modern figure? The Moray and the Snowcat, yeah, those were great. We didn't get a lot of snow. O-ring figures at JoeCon? I don't remember if I saw O-ring figures at JoeCon. We didn't get a lot of snow. I mean, we got some. I mean, usually every year we get at least a little bit of snow. But not enough snow to really play with the Arctic vehicles outside. So we didn't get to take advantage of them. So, I mean, we'd play, like Arctic indoors, but not as often as, like sea adventures and jungle. We loved going to the backyard and pretending that the tall grass was a jungle. We did quite a lot of that. An Instagram account, yes, I know. I'm a little behind the times. I need to get myself on Instagram, and everybody's been asking me to create a wish list, and I'm still working on that. But it is cheaper for the tooling for the old school O-rings. Yeah, that I was wondering about that because I mean you do have you gotta have. You have different materials. You have the metal J-hook, and you have the rubber O-ring and the screws and the rivets and all that. I was just wondering if that is something that made it cost prohibitive nowadays. I didn't know. Yeah. Yeah. What are you planning to do once done with G.I. Joe? Just sit back and enjoy your collection? Well, I enjoy it more now because I get to share it with everyone. It's more fun for me to talk with you guys about it than to just have it sit on a shelf. But this is something that I don't have an answer for. I mean, there is a finite number of reviews to do in vintage, G.I. Joe within the parameters of my channel. So I've given some thought to that. I have some ideas of what I want to do, but I haven't settled on it yet. So I don't know yet is the answer. Yeah, I think people are really liking the articulation of the modern figures for posability. I'm curious as to whether or not like kids enjoy the articulation, if that makes that much of a difference to actual kids that would play with them. That I do not know. Yeah, I can review her Rainbow Bright. Thank you, video game nerd fan Timson. Yeah, you know, she got a couple, so hey, that would keep the channel going for a little while, right? Um, you know, in the last few months, especially since JoeCon, I've thought more about how I could do this, you know, as a regular thing rather than just a side thing. I've thought about it a lot. And I think the channel is still at least a couple years away from being able to do that. If we reached a point where like this was, you know, my regular everyday thing, then I'd have to give some serious thought to what would happen after I finish reviewing all the vintage stuff, because I would definitely want to keep it going. Yeah, yes, and I've figured out, and I don't think I can actually fix the mirror thing. Since the picture is reversed. So yes, everybody gets a funny a ha ha. Is Roadblock obligated to cook for everyone every day? Not everyone every day, because sometimes they're in the field and they're just eating rations, right? They're just eating MREs. But maybe they make him cook those too. That's a raw deal. Randall, thank you. I'm glad you like the channel. Um, um, if the group would like to send a collection video, can you ask if the group would like to send a collection video of G.I. Joe? Sure. Does anybody want to send a collection video? What does Scoop do most days? Probably file reports. He's got to, you know, take everything that he, you know, records with his camera, and he's got to transcribe that. So that's like 80% of his time. Cobra Commander and Resolute, feel of the comic book version, yeah. Yeah, I did like Resolute. Hey, Troy Smith. Hey, nice to see you. I do have some ideas for like some stories, some action scenes, and like more like an ongoing story that I would enjoy doing with the figures if I had time to do them. I've actually got like in my head, I've got pretty much like a feature length movie planned out that I could do with the figures and vehicles and add some special effects that I think would be really fun. I would enjoy doing that so much. I just right now I just can't, but that could be something that I could do after reviews are done. And we're talking about years from now, right? You know, there's still a lot to do. We're not going away yet. There's still years worth of G.I. Joe toys to review. Joe base is Area 51. Well, they did have the base in the desert, didn't they? But yeah, for at least a couple of years, I've had an idea for basically it's a movie that I could do it scene by scene. I could break it down so it's a smaller project, or a series of smaller projects. But man, that would take some time to do what I'm envisioning. Review of other 80s nostalgia. That's also something that I've considered. That's one of the options. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. If fans sent Street Fighter 2, would I review them? Man, you guys are gonna make me do it. You're gonna make me review Street Fighter 2. Are you sure you want me to review Street Fighter 2? Because I gotta be honest with you. I got some problems with Street Fighter 2. And I know that there are people out there that love them some Street Fighter 2. And so, yeah, that I'd probably do it. Yeah, I'd probably do it if I had a set of them, or at least enough of them to make a review out of it. I'm your favorite Retro Joe. That's awesome. And I'm O-Ring. Use Patreon to get Sergeant Slaughter to appear in a review. Man, that would be so. How awesome would that be? Yes, I have one more Sarge figure to review. And how great would it be? Hold on. How great would it be to have Sergeant Slaughter? I think like contracts are what keep him from doing Joe stuff. His WWE contract makes it hard for him to do Joe themed events. But I wonder if there's a way around that, because Sergeant Slaughter seems to really enjoy G.I. Joe, and he seems to really enjoyed his participation in it, and I think he would have fun doing it. He would slaughterize it, yeah. That's just one of those things where contracts may make it impossible. That's why they couldn't get him to JoeCon this year. They would have loved to have him, but his contract with WWE apparently makes it hard for him to do anything Joe related. Reviewing, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the review might be entertaining, but doing the review wouldn't necessarily be fun. Of course, if we had Sergeant Slaughter on, then we'd have to do something with HCC or with Mrs. HCC. We'd have to have a few jokes about that. Yes, Green Yeti. Yeah, Rowdy Piper. Sad that we lost him. That is. What do you think the odds are of getting any new G.I. Joe toys, movies, and cartoons? Well, we're definitely gonna get. Movies. They've told us that. We know that. Make your own toy line with you as a G.I. Joe. I'll get right on that. Thank you, Green Yeti. We know we're going to get movies. And there will probably be toys associated with the movies. I think they are going to be more like the modern era figures and vehicles, which means like a lot of reissue stuff. I'm guessing there's not going to be a lot like new, but a lot of reusing old molds. And I think it's probably also going to target more the adult collector market, which I think it has been in recent years anyway. That's my guess. I'd really love to see something more for kids and something to bring the next generation in and create the next generation of G.I. Joe fan. I just don't know. I mean, we've had 2 movies. They weren't super popular, but I mean, some kids saw them. But it didn't really, kickstart, the next generation of fans. So I would like to see something for the kids. Okay, James Berry would buy several of me as a G.I. Joe. And pins for the channel. Hey, that's not a bad idea. Pins for the channel. I have to give that some thought and see how I would make those. That's an interesting idea. See, this is why I have you guys around. You have good ideas. You guys, I'm sorry I didn't have like a real topic to talk with you about. I was going to talk a little bit about the most recent video and the 90s and kind of just my thoughts on not just that figure, but doing reviews that I know are going to be negative and I know are going to be ranty. And there's, in the early days, it was, I had no problem doing a ranty video, and everybody seemed to like it and have fun and everything. But nowadays, I want to be careful about one thing. I want to make sure that if I'm going to review something and it's going to be a negative review and feel like I need to rant a bit about it, I want to make sure that I'm not inciting any kind of animosity, hatred, vitriol among the fans. And I don't want to be the guy that divides the fan base, right? I don't want to be the guy that drives a wedge between people. And I try to be careful to make sure that if I'm going to rant about something, that it's about plastic and not people. And I also want to make sure that everybody understands that what I'm expressing is my opinion. It is just my opinion, but I want everyone to form their own opinions. All right, I prefer it if you form your own opinions. So I hope that gets across to everyone. When it's a bad action figure, I enjoy ripping those things apart, and there are some that are easy targets, and I shouldn't have to hold back on that. If I feel I gotta feel like I can express myself honestly and truthfully. And so I'm going to continue to do that. But at the same time, man, I don't want to start any wars in the fans. I don't want to split everyone, and I don't want everyone to start thinking that attacking each other is a good idea. Because right now, I mean, after all the support that I've gotten and I've heard from a lot of you, there's so much positivity in the G.I. Joe fan community right now. You guys are great. You guys should feel proud of your fan community, because there are some amazing people in it right now, and just the overall attitude is really good. What I'm hoping is that when these new movies come around, that everybody will keep their perspective and not. It's just inevitable. Whether the movie's good or bad, or in good, bad, or mediocre, there's just going to be some people who don't like it, and I just don't want, like it or not, like the movie if you like it, don't like it if you don't like it. But let's not let's not go to war with each other over it. Express your honest and frank opinion, but remember that we're Joe fans in the end, and we're kind of on the same team here. There are some other fandoms, and I won't mention any names, but there are some other fandoms that have allowed themselves to be ripped apart and have gotten quite ugly, and I just don't want to see that happen to the G.I. Joe fan community. You guys are too great. You're too good. You're too smart. You're too kind. And I want you guys to remember that however these new movies come out, they can't take away your G.I. Joe. You already have your G.I. Joe. We have something that has been great for, decades. And they can't do anything that makes that disappear, right? So let's remember that no matter what happens with any new movies, we already have something that's great, okay? So that's going to be my mantra. Even if I end up hating the movies. And if I end up hating the movies, I'm going to tell you guys that these movies suck, all right? I will be quite frank and honest with you. If I look at these movies and I don't think they're good. I'm hopeful, right? Crossing all my fingers that the movies are going to be good, going to be enjoyable, that the movies will appeal to a broader audience and will bring more people in to enjoy G.I. Joe and discover G.I. Joe for the first time, maybe. That's my hope. But if it doesn't turn out to be the case, I'm going to try to keep that in perspective too, because I've got my G.I. Joe and they can't take it away from me. They just can't. Review the Ballad of G.I. Joe. That was fun, yeah. We did a little tribute to that in the Terrordrome review. That was fun. You guys are typing fast. Chili, hi, how you doing? Chili Swerve. don't have any type of high expectations of the reboot. So yeah, let's. Yeah, I hope that it turns out good, but let's keep in mind the track record, and let's, you know, make our expectations realistic. Um, I mean, GI Joe has potential to be great. I mean, the reason we are fans is because we've seen it be great. Thank you, James. I appreciate it. Um, so yeah, we've seen it be great, and it can be great again. But man, I think we also know from experience that it's not easy to make something great. It's easier to make something mediocre. Which figure is worse, Lobotomax, Globulus, or E Honda? Uh, that's tough. I'm gonna say Globulus because of the tail. The tail makes Globulus almost unplayable. I mean, that thing don't work. It just don't work. Um, Previous movies to be flawed but rather enjoyable. I'm glad you like them, Johannes. I know that a lot of people didn't care for them. I when I rewatched Rise of Cobra, more recently, I still didn't love that one. Retaliation was flawed, and there were some problems with it I really have a hard time getting past. But there were some good moments, and there were even some moments in Retaliation that really kind of felt kind of like GI Joe to me. So I liked it better. But felt like it was a step in the right direction, and they weren't quite there yet, but it was a step. A step. And if they take another step, maybe they could have had something that was gold. But that was a few years ago, and they haven't taken that step yet. Um, yeah, that. And Green Yeti loves Globulus. I'm great. I'm glad you do. So everybody get Green Yeti's address and send him all your Globulus figures. He's gonna, hang him up, hang him from his ceiling. He's gonna make some wall art out of him. My favorite figure, Mark. My favorite figure. I always go back to the same answer. The figure that was the most important to me, and the character that was most important to me, was Stalker. So version 1.5, the swivel arm Stalker, is a figure that I always enjoyed, and I'll also always love the character in the comic book. So that's always my go-to favorite. Um, Hello, Brian. Yes, I know it's backwards. Let's see, had to be like almost 20 years ago now. There were some local kids that did like a zine. Anybody remember zines? Anyway, they did a zine with the Ace Glut title. It didn't last very long. Nice kids though. Oh, favorite vehicle? Oh, that's harder. Well, no, it's not actually that hard. The Killer Whale is my favorite. Lots of fun with that when I was a kid. As an adult, I just love just having the thing. It's so big. It's got so much stuff on it. I like the colors on it. It's pretty cool. Killer Whale, still my favorite. Chad, you like the Sky Striker? That's also a really good one. Version 1 of Grunt, Mr. Blind Crow, yeah. I've got, even though Grunt wasn't my favorite figure, I always had a lot of respect for Grunt, and I always and thought the Grunt was a more important character and figure than he really, got credit for. So we got a lot of use out of Grunt. Grunt was an important guy. He was often on our missions. The hydrofoil, again, just really awesome. I do like the smaller vehicles too, and I like the smaller play sets, and I want to keep that in mind that not every kid had the big toys. Some of them only had the smaller ones, and some of those are really good too. But as far as like just sheer, play features and everything, it's hard to beat, the killer whale, the moray, and the night raven, the tomahawk. They were big, and so they could pack a lot of really cool stuff in them. Um, and I'm sorry if I'm missing your questions, guys. We're closing in on an hour, and I've been trying to keep these these live streams to about an hour. So I'll probably wrap it up in about 5 minutes. But man, we've got almost 100 people in here right now. That's amazing. That is amazing. The hydrofoil is sexier than a killer whale. Yeah, but the killer whale's not supposed to be sexy. I mean, that's a fighting machine, right? That thing it's armored. It's well armed. It's not fast, but it rolls in there, with cannons and missiles and machine guns, and that thing will get the job done. Wayne, Scarface. Yeah, I've told the legend from when I was a kid. The story that, we read the comic book and we saw Scarface in the comic book, and then we got this. There was this rumor or myth among our friends that there were Scarface action figures. That some of the Cobra officer action figures had scars, sculpted in around the eyes, just like the Scarface figure in the comic book. So we'd always check when we got to the store. We'd pick up the Cobra officer figure and look really close to see if we could see if it was a Scarface figure. But of course, we never found one because they never existed. Customize a scoop / ice cream soldier hybrid and call him ice cream scoop. Thank you, Byron. Thank you. Enjoy the 10-part Resolute show. Yeah, I thought the Resolute show was really good. And I thought it was the right blend of elements from like the cartoon and the comic book series. The animation was really good. It's so good, it almost seems like it's like it was just fan made. It's hard to. It almost doesn't seem like an official release because you would think that a more official release cartoon would be watered down a bit. But it was really impressive. I liked it a lot. Flash and Grand Slams were cool designs. I liked the Silver Pads Grand Slam. I had that as a kid. I remember that. Because I liked the silver pads better than the orangey red pads, and I thought that looked pretty cool. Do an hour-long video focusing on the killer whale's motorcycle. Don't think I couldn't do it. I could do. It's easier for me to do a long video than a short one. What do I use for audio on the show? I've got a microphone, and it's not handy. I'll try to remember to show the microphone to you next time. But I recently picked up a new microphone for the camera, and it's been working pretty well. But when I do the front of the camera stuff, I think I need to to fix some of the room echo a little bit. And I think I may need to get like a lapel mic to do that like I want to. I noticed that FormBX257 has been using a lapel mic, and that seems to work for him. So that's something I might look into. They're not super expensive, but it's something I might look into to improve some of the audio when I'm in front of the camera. Anyway, so hey, that's about an hour. I want to say congratulations again to Comic Tropes for the success of that channel. It's going really well. Congratulations to Timmer from Half the Battle again for getting 1,000 subscribers. Really cool video from FormBX257. His reviews are always a lot of fun. Make sure you check out G.I. Joeberg. All these great G.I. Joe creators that are making really cool stuff right now. Don't don't neglect those guys, because one of the things that makes this fan community great is that so many people are putting their own effort into creating fun content for fans to watch and see and listen to, and I think it's great. I know there's not a lot of, or not really any GI Joe on the shelves right now, but I think it's a great time to be a GI Joe fan. There's some cool stuff out there, so. Make sure you guys check all that out. And that brings us to an hour. Thanks, Byron. I'm glad that you made it. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. I'll wrap it up now. And we will do it again next week. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for all your support, all your kind words, all your messages, all the emails that you sent me. It's really been heartwarming, and it's really helped me get through a tough time. So thank you all. And with that, I will say good night, and I will see you next week.